Okay, so we are transitioning to, all right, so we don't have a sketch now, and we're going to use this inequality to sketch it and then determine what the interval is where the solution takes place. So what they did for us was they factored it all for us already. So toward the end of the lesson, you're going to be factoring and doing everything from here. But right now, I just want to make sure that you can get the sketch part and the interval notation part done. So for this question, the first thing that we want to do is we want to solve for x to get our zeros. So I know that from this factor, x equals positive 1. And from this factor, x equals 2. And from this factor, x equals 4. So there's no repeats. There's no double or triple roots. So they're just 3 roots that are going to be on our sketch. The next thing that we're going to need to find is the y-intercept. And remember, there's 2 ways to find the y-intercept. You can either look for the c value, which is the constant at the end, and it's 0, comma, whatever the constant is, or you can plug 0 in for x and calculate. Now, when they're in factored form, it's easier to plug the 0 in for x. So this would be -1 times -2 times -4. So this would give us positive 2 times -4, which is -8. So this would be our y-intercept. So I've got 3 roots. I've got a y-intercept. The last thing I need to do is just look for my shape. Now this is an x times x times x, which is a cubic. And because when I multiplied my x's together, I got a positive a value. That means that I'm going to start bottom left and I have to swoop up top right. So now that I have the shape, I have my roots, I have my y-intercept, I'm able to sketch. So I'm not looking for this to be perfect. I just need a sketch big enough so that I can figure out where my interval is. All right, so I labeled 1, 2, and 4 on the x-axis because those are where our roots are. I didn't put dots on them yet for a really specific reason. You see, we're in inequalities now. And because this says greater than 0, these have to be open circles. So I need to make sure that I'm making open circles in these spots when I do my graph. The next thing is I need my y-intercept. Now, my y-intercept doesn't need an open circle. It just needs to be there for our graph to go through. But open circles have to occur because there's no equal sign on the x-axis. So we know we have a cubic, so it's got to start down here. We're going to go through the -8. We're going to come up through the open circle, come back down through the open circle, and then back up. And there's your shape. So that's how you sketch these. We sketch them just like we did the other ones. The only difference is now we've got an open circle thing going. The next part is we have to look at our solution. And this is a greater than 0. So greater than 0 means that we need to look for y values above the x-axis. And where that is, we're going to shade the x values that correspond to that. So shade the x-axis where this happens. So I'm looking for above the x-axis, and that's going to occur between 1 and 2. That is above the x-axis. It's also above the x-axis up here after the 4. And because it's after the 4, that's going to be an infinity. Okay? So our shading is going to happen between 1 and 2 because that's where the graph is above the x-axis where your y values are greater than 0, and also y is greater than 0 everywhere after 4. So now we're ready to give our solution. Our interval set starts with the segment piece that goes from 1 to 2, and we're parentheses because they're open circles. Then we have a union, and then from 4 to infinity. And 4 is in a parenthesis because it's an open circle. Parenthesis is always for infinity. So this is our solution, and there is our sketch.